to say that the people of Korea and also the people of the United States want peace and diplomacy, not war with North Korea. And we think the Olympics are a great celebration and a great time for peace.
Thank you. It sounds like you name is Mr. Nam. I'm from Wonderful Justice Organization. I started 4 years ago when Cell Ferry in Korea got down. Yeah. Then it's a lot of Korean American parents were upset about it. That's how we got started.
Sorry, the audio is not coming in very well. I really didn't hear the last part of what you were saying, so I don't know. Maybe that's just the connection. The technology is not always as perfect as when. You know what? If we were in South Korea, it'd be a lot better because they have way better internet in South Korea than we have in the United States.
I know. I agree. I agree. Definitely, yes.
What is it?
I was told that there are more. There are two organizations that are having.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing the audio at all. I hope other people in Facebook world are hearing the audio. I'm not hearing it at all now. So
I hear
technology
you. Hello?
has its limitations, unfortunately. I have to just say that one of the things that I think is so wonderful about the Olympics is the national pride of Koreans and Korean Americans. And in terms of my work as a peace activist, I've been very inspired and learned a lot from my Korean American friends. Christine An, who's going to be on later, Christine Hong, Hyun Lee, who's in New York. And she was a person that really convinced me that we could organize around the Olympics. So I give her a lot of credit. John Kim from Veterans for Peace has worked, for peace for a long time. Kuhan Pike, who lives in the Pacific. Ramsey Liam, a lot of terrific Korean American folks who I've learned a lot from. And a lot of them are very good writers and speakers. And I often post their articles on my Facebook page and also on Peace Action's Facebook page. Pretty easy to find me, Kevin Martin, and just find the right Kevin Martin because there will be a lot. So to the one that's connected with Peace Action or the Peace Action Facebook page itself.
Yeah, that's great. I think Facebook Live, Harry, right? Also about what's going on with right, North Korea.
I'm still not getting the audio. Sorry, I'm not hearing. I hear a word every once in a while is about it. That's the way it goes sometimes. could just say a few things about what we're doing around the Olympic truce. We have a call that you can find on the Peace Action website or the Peace Action page that has a lot of different things how people can get involved, including signing the People's Peace Treaty with North Korea. You can sign on to the call for the Olympic truce. Just today, over 100 people signed on to a letter encouraging the United States not to do any missile tests during the Olympics. Because obviously, if North Korea would do a missile test, people would be freaking out all over the place. So the United States needs to be consistent, so we should not be doing any missile tests. We're also calling for stopping the huge war games, the war exercises between the U.S. and the Republic of Korea, which are obviously very provocative and scary for North Korea. And we should stop those, and that should be at least a starting point of what they call a freeze for a freeze. If we would stop our war exercises and North Korea would continue to not do any nuclear testing or missile testing, which they now haven't done for several months, that could at least be a starting place for diplomacy. And I think, regardless of what you think about the politics, I think President Moon of South Korea deserves credit for really trying to revive diplomacy. And there's been at least some early success around the Olympics with not a lot of support, from Trump, obviously. Now, Trump did say that he agreed to postpone the war exercises until after the Paralympics and after the Olympic truce. And that was, at Moon's request, which was great, but they need to continue that. And now on my TV, I'm seeing the opening ceremony. A good friend of mine, Daniel Jasper, who works for American Service Committee, is there, and he was posting pictures earlier today, and it looked great. And supposedly the whole crowd cheered when the Korean teams walked in together. So clearly, the people there want peace, and the United States either has to support peace and diplomacy or stay out of the way.
Absolutely, I agree.
One other thing that people can do, and I can post some of these links on the Facebook page for this event. Congress has been terrible as far as these issues are concerned in terms of really not claiming its role. But there's something called the No Unconstitutional Strike on North Korea Act. It's in both the House and the Senate. And people need to contact their members of the House and their senators to say that there's no justification and there's no legal authority for Trump to launch any kind of an attack against North Korea. It would be illegal under international law and also under U.S. law. So there are things that people can do, and we really need to capitalize and take advantage of this period of the Olympic truce to say that there's no military option. Only can be diplomacy. That's the only solution. Do we know if other people can hear you? Just because I don't, maybe everybody else hears you just fine. I don't
Can I
know.
hear you at all?
Now I just did. Just now.
Just now. So I guess I have to say slowly.
No, it's just that the connection was bad. Although maybe now being closer to the microphone, maybe that helps. I don't know. I think it's the connection. I love your tattoos, by the way. I
Yeah.
love them. The Olympic rings. This is the shape
Thank
of
you,
Korea,
Korean.
and
Right,
that's the
and this
shape.
is Korean Peninsula flag.
Yeah, the shape of Korea. I figured right
Yeah,
away
yeah,
that
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
that was. That's great. I love it. And it's important because Americans are so bad at geography. Most Americans don't know what Korea looks like.
Right, right.
I have to say, too, that as far as I'm concerned, it's a gift that the Olympics are in Korea this year. If they were in France or Italy or Utah, we wouldn't have this opportunity to try to use the Olympic truce period, going through the end of March after the Paralympics, to focus on the need for peace and diplomacy with North Korea. I think, If the Olympics were in Colorado or Utah or France or Italy or whatever, people wouldn't really be focused on this at all. So it's really a gift that we have to take advantage of. And again, I have to say, I'm just so impressed at the pride of Koreans and Korean Americans about the Olympics, and that this could be a way to bring people together. And I'm going to root for the hockey team, the women's hockey team, the North Korean, South
Yes.
Korean, the joint hockey team. I'm going to root for them. I hope they win. That would be spectacular. Oh, there we go. There's a map.
Hear that? Oh, okay.
I also told Kwan I have a plate of kimchi here. I love this kimchi. This is from Number One Sons here in Washington, D.C. But it's so spicy hot. I'm not going to eat it until I'm ready to go off the air. It's delicious, but it's so spicy. So I'm going to wait to eat it
Yes.
before I go off. You want to try speaking again? Because I have been hearing you better now. Well, it's nothing again. I don't know. It sometimes works, but mostly not. Sorry.
Now,
왜 안 나오지?
너도 나와야지.
그러니까 아 supposed to.
hi,
나
David.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, I'm guessing I'm going through. Can't see myself though.
You're loud and clear and looking good.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. We are getting more or less set up here in LA. People are still coming in today, right now, as we speak. Yeah, I'm not on the Facebook. I think signal here. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah, we're getting set up here. Almost finished getting set up. Oh, okay. Let me hold on. Let me connect to the Wi-Fi. Maybe that might be better. Give me 1 second.
Let me see if I can kick somebody off the Wi-Fi.
Hi.
Oh, is that?
대표님, 내 말 들려요?
영어로.
Yes, I can hear you. Uh-huh.
John, could you introduce yourself? Kevin here and David.
Can you hear me a little better?
Yeah, I can hear you, David. Except I can't really hear Misu. I mean, you're going in and out. It's kind of hard to hear you.
It's really delayed.
Okay, so that's not just me. Other people are having that same problem, unfortunately.
Oh, wow, that's like a minute before. Yeah, even 느려 지금. I'm sorry, the signal's really bad here for some reason. I'm not.
Oh, hold on. Hello?
MBC를 못 본다. MBC를
Oh my God. That sounded really bad.
케이블 없어.
Hello?
Oh, okay. I could hear you better now.
이거 잠시만.
One second. 미수님,
Okay, can
그렇게,
you hear me?
yeah, we can. 근데 미수님 그렇게 할 때 마이크 그렇게 건드리면 되게 아파요, 귀가.
Oh, okay.
So you
So-
have to mute whatever you touch your mic. Otherwise, it's gonna hurt our ears.
Oh, okay. So right now it's okay.
Yeah, we could hear you so well now.
Finally, we
And,
can hear. Yay!
Yay.
Good. Yay!
It is actually really loud
All
now.
right.
Matter of fact, I'm turning it down a little bit. Okay.
Me too. I'm turning it down too. Wow, there's no between. Right?
Okay.
Either you can't hear her.
Okay,
or
I guess I touched the microphone.
You're great. You're loud and clear now.
Yeah.
All right,
Must be
good,
the
good. I'm
headset.
glad to hear that. Okay,
It must be the
so Sean,
headset.
could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sean. I'm with One Heart for Justice group. And then unfortunately, I wanted to join them on that spot, but I couldn't because I have a church meeting at 7 o'clock, and my house is a gathering place, so I couldn't be there. But I thought I'll just join for the time being. So it's very pleasure to meet you all.
I think your organization maybe signed on to our call for the Olympic truce, so thank you.
Yes, we did. No, thank you for doing it.
Yeah, thank you for initiating that. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can really claim credit. I think Hyun Lee in New York, she was the one who really thought we could organize around the Olympic truce, and I wasn't sure, so I think she deserves more credit than I do.
Yes, and thank her. I also thank her then.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, how did you get, what motivated you to get involved in this Korean peace action movement?
Well, I've worked for peace for a long time now, for over 30 years, and I have a lot of colleagues, particularly Korean American colleagues or Japanese colleagues and people that work on Asia Pacific issues. And last spring, when it seemed very dangerous in terms of the Trump administration's horrible rhetoric towards North Korea, I reached out to a few friends and I said, we really don't have any kind of a national network of groups working on peace in Korea. So they agreed, and it was including some of the people I mentioned earlier, Christine An, who I guess is going to be on later, Hyun Lee, and a lot of other folks too, some Korean American, obviously others not. And we had our first conference call on the day that President Moon won the election in South Korea. So it was very positive and very, hopeful at that time. But since then, we've been really very concerned that the Trump administration could do something stupid and start a war. So that's why I was saying before that this Olympic truce is a great gift, that we have some time to call for peace and diplomacy. And at least for a few months, I think the Trump administration can't do anything stupid like start an attack. But we have to make sure, it's really up to us to make sure that at the very least, if the Trump administration can't get involved in diplomacy, then they need to stay out of the way. Let Koreans make peace, and particularly President Moon. He really seems very committed to try to resolve the conflict diplomatically, and he deserves support of everybody, including the United States.
Right. And well, but it seems like the way it's going, I mean, in U.S. media and as well as Korean media, the way that I've seen a lot of articles talked about how conservative parties and conservative people gather around and then talk about this Olympics as, it's Pyeongchang Olympic. It's more like a Pyongyang Olympics, like that, and just fabricating the facts. And right, that is ridiculous. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that is, there are unfortunately powerful forces that only thrive on conflict. And it's possible that the U.S. war machine and Trump doesn't really want a war with North Korea, but we want the constant threat of war. We want the constant tension. But the problem with that is a mistake could start a nuclear war. I mean, I don't think necessarily that there's anybody in North Korea that wants to, but a small mistake, a small miscalculation could escalate into something horrific, and we absolutely can't let that happen. And the only way we can do that is to make peace through diplomacy. And the United States saying, well, we'll talk to North Korea after they get rid of their nuclear weapons. Well, sure, that would be great. But is the United States going to get rid of our nuclear weapons anytime soon? Of course not. We should, but we're not going to. And we're totally hypocritical. And North Korea thinks, understandably, I don't want them to have nuclear weapons, but understandably, they think they need them for a deterrent. So you can't just say, get rid of your nukes and then we'll talk. That's just a non starter. They're not going to agree to that. And diplomacy has to be in good faith with no preconditions. And if you can't do that, then don't mess it up. Stay out of the way and let President Moon take the leadership and let Koreans make peace. So I'm not giving up on the United States because I'm a peace activist here in this country, as I said before, and I can post on the Facebook page for this event some links for things that people can do to get active, including contacting their congresspeople. Their congresspeople have to get in the way of Trump and say, no, you can't do this. It's unconstitutional. There's no authority legally, internationally, or in the United States for the U.S. to attack. So we have to raise our voices here in the United States. If we need to demonstrate, we'll demonstrate. Yeah. We're doing events around the country around the Olympic truce. There's at least 30 some, and I hope it grows over the next couple of months. And I think more people can get involved that way.
I absolutely agree with you.
Well, and I just lost my train of thought. Things.
Yeah, I agree with him completely. I just feel like there are a lot of times the reason why they don't want Korea, South and North to unite is because there's some alternate ego that's hidden there. Because a lot of times right now in South Korea, there are a lot of American militaries stationed there. Just because the fact that we're saying North Korea, we don't know when North Korea is going to attack. And then for a fact, they're selling a lot of weapons to South Korean.
South Korea is one of the biggest buyers of U.S. weapons. We sell a lot of weapons to South Korea.
Exactly. And the reason why they could do that, or we could do that, United States could do that, is because of that South and North Korea tension. Right? Once that's gone, then we're losing biggest market. Right? So I don't want to think that way, but I just feel like maybe there's one of the motives why they don't want South and North to unite.
Definitely. And the only people that would profit are the people, you know?
Exactly.
The people of the region, the people in the United States would profit, but the big corporations, the weapons contractors, the conservative politicians, they all thrive on the tension, the conflict. They can't make money if there's peace.
Right, exactly. And then another thing that even in South Korea, I see a lot of politicians who doesn't want to see it happening because most of the times, that's the excuse they use. They're doing this because of the North Korea is threatening to attack. We're doing another action because of North Korea. Once that is gone, what are they going to do? I feel like almost a lot of times, then they have no excuse to do anything. So.
Well, and that's why I've been concerned to see that President Moon's popularity has dropped a little bit. So he definitely needs support from people in South Korea, but also internationally.
Right. I agree. We saw someone joining us.
Yeah.
밑에 걸렸어.
Is it Jennifer?
I think
yes. Hi.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. How are you? I just came in.
Fine. How are you? Could you introduce yourself, Jennifer?
Okay. Hi. I'm Jennifer Unju Kim. I gotta fix my hair. I just came in. Anyway, I work in New York City as a school teacher, and I just came to Reverend Yu's house to watch this Pyeongchang Olympic opening ceremony. And I am actively involved in, I guess, various different matters. But I'm here with two other members who's fervently wishing for our nation's reunification.
All right,
good,
welcome.
Good.
Unfortunately, they're showing mostly commercials. They're not really showing the opening ceremony yet.
I know.
But I've seen pictures because a friend of mine was there and he posted pictures on Facebook and it looked spectacular.
Yeah, I
And they
actually
said
saw
that
a bit. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
the whole crowd was cheering when the joint team, when the North Korean and South Korean athletes entered the stadium together. The whole crowd was cheering, except for Mike Pence. He
I
was the only one,
know.
of
I
course.
saw the
Yeah.
picture and the
What do you expect?
Oh
You know,
man, I was so sad when I
what an
saw that
embarrassment he
picture.
is.
I
Gee whiz.
know.
아,
I know. Pence and there's another person. And we know
And I
who
also
that is.
saw, this was very funny. There was a Trump impersonator and a Kim Jong Un impersonator who tried to come into the stadium, and the security people kicked them out. I thought it was funny. I thought, and they were like, "Hey, we're just trying to make peace." I thought it was very clever,
Yeah,
but they
that's
they
funny.
threw him out. The security people are too touchy, I guess.
I guess so. And Trump has to go out too. Oh wow.
그러다 보니까
What's going on? Hello?
신기하게 나타난 시도가 펼쳐졌습니다. 몸을 모르는 강원도의 5 어린이 뼈탄 만큼 그 어느 곳보다
무한한 잠재력을 갖고 있는 아시아에서 세계의 젊은이들이 스포츠를 통해 새로운 지평을 열고 평창과 대한민국에서
Okay,
지속
I think that
가능한
we
우상을
have
남기는 것입니다.
예.
people from LA
지금
here.
동계올림픽 개막식이 치러질 평창올림픽 스타디움이 보이는데 이렇게 보니까 오각형입니다.
예, 맞습니다. 오륜의 오각,
Hi.
오륜의 5개를 가지고 오각형을 만든 겁니다.
예.
Hi, could you introduce yourself? 연진?
상징하는.
네, 맞습니다.
자, 그리고 왼쪽에 살짝
Could
희미하게
you
보이는데요.
introduce
저
yourself?
희미하게 보이는 곳이 해스룬 경기장입니다. 해스룬 경기장 왼편에 지금 이제 화면에서 보이지 않습니다만
고맙습니다.
Can you turn the volume down, 연진?
그 위에
Can you turn the volume down
보이는 이런
The
모습입니다.
volume
지금 화면에 살짝 보여져
of the
있고요.
TV?
자, 이번 평창 동계올림픽
이거 뭐
마스코트
들어있어요?
멋있잖아요.
맥주?
마스코트 좀
맥주하고 막걸리?
소개해 주시겠어요?
평창 동계올림픽 마스코트는 하얀 호랑이, 수호랑입니다.
예.
수호는 올림픽에 참가하는 선수와 참가자 그리고 관중들을 보호하는
연진?
뜻이고요. 나는
정연진님.
호랑이와 또 강원도는 정선 아리랑의 땅에서 따왔습니다.
그렇군요. 자, 이번 평창을 통해서 동계올림픽
Lisa, you should be able to mute them.
나라도 무려 6개 나라가 됩니다.
You should be able to mute them. Go to participants.
I
Tab.
should?
Yeah. There you go. We got it.
Was that a Korean language broadcast of the opening ceremonies? Probably.
Yeah,
I guess.
I think so.
Cool.
No, I think it's starting now.
Finally, yes.
Is it starting?
Fireworks. I got a lot of fireworks there.
여기서 이제 연결 다
목사님, 텔레비전 켜보세요. Where is he?
Wow.
Huh. I just did welcome in English for NBC for the TV cameras. Okay, folks, I have to sign off, but I told Kwan earlier I have a plate here of beautiful spicy kimchi from Number One Sons here in Washington. But as soon as I eat this, I have to go get some beer or something because it's so spicy. It's so hot. Happy Olympics.
Yeah, eat.
Happy Olympics.
Happy Olympic. Woo!
Yay, peace. Actually, you don't want to hear me eating, so. Thanks, friends.
Thank you.
Well,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Thanks for
Bye,
being with us.
Kevin. 너무 많이 안 오셨다. 그렇죠?
그러니까. Who's there? Sean.
I'm here.
두 개를 다 동시에 드릴 수가 없어.
하나씩만 해.
이거 어떻게 된 거야?
빵. 안 들리세요?
무슨 한국말로 하나? Well, can what happened to the opening ceremony here? I can't watch it right now. Okay. MBC channel 11? Okay. 네, 여기에 대해서 얘기를 좀 했으면 좋겠는데. Gosh. Okay, it's not my TV, so I can't really manipulate the remote control here. Huh? 언니 또 안 돼. 네. 왜 되다가 말다가 그냥 여기다 좀. 응. 언니 지금 가리고 있어 지금. 응?
너무 예쁘다.
캔슬하고. 아. Oh, wow. Are you guys all watching the performance? Is it supposed to be a 거북선?
No, it's turtle. It's different animals. Like ox, tiger, monkey. Oh, maybe 그 12장생인가?
Oh, that's what it.
I don't know.
Maybe that's what it's representing.
목사님, 나 텔레비 좀 켜주세요.
용띠도 있고.
목사님 텔레비 좀 켜주세요. 저 텔레비. 오프닝 뭐 평창 그거.
평창 볼래요?
예, 텔레비 좀
It's like
켜주세요.
more than
텔레비.
that. 나비도 있어요, 나비.
I don't know how to do it.
여기. 노벨라면서 있어.
Okay, whatever.
너무 예쁘다.
왜 안 오세요? 텔레비 어떻게 켜는지 몰라 난.
안 되지.
한복이라고 얘기했어요. They call 한복.
Wow.
Turn on the TV for me. TV.
너무 예쁘다.
I think they're showing the the early history of Korea through the performance.
Phoenix. Oh, so pretty.
Cheers, 목사님. 통일을 위하여.
무대에 올라가. Oh my goodness.
또 아이스하키의 스케이트 날은 스피드 스케이팅이나 쇼트트랙과 달리 짧고 둥근 모양입니다.
So there are 12 animals in.
No, there are a lot more.
갑자기 멈추거나 속도를 내야 하는 아이스하키반의 특성이 고스란히 담긴 자료입니다. 와이킹 스타리언.
Like 사슴. Oh, what is that? Birds.
평창올림픽
Trees.
참석을 위해서
Dragon. Phoenix.
문재인 대통령을 접견하기 위해서 조금 전에 숙소를 떠났습니다. 문 대통령은 이들과 함께
Is that a bear?
함께할 예정입니다. 청와대 접견과 오찬은 잠시 뒤인 오전 11시부터 시작될 예정입니다. 북한 부위급 대표단은 어젯밤 평창에서 올림픽 대회식을 참관하고 새벽 2시쯤 서울로
Oh my God, what is
잠시
that?
후에 청와대에 도착할 것으로 예상됩니다. 오늘 오찬 북측 참석자는 고위급 대표단 4명입니다. 단장인 김영남 최고위원의
Oh wow, did you hear that?
김정은 노동당 위원장의 여동생인 김여정 노동당
Oh my goodness.
She said some of the things that we see on TV, they can't see it on stage because it's augmented reality. AR.
Oh.
국가안보실장 조명균 통일부 장관 등이 배석할 예정입니다. 문재인 대통령은 어제 저녁에 평창 올림픽 스타디움에서 열린 평창 동계올림픽 개회식에서 김성인 위원장 또 김여정 제1부부장과 남북 선수단이 공동으로 입장하는 장면을 함께 보면서 반갑게 인사를 나눈 바가 있습니다. 오늘 오찬 회동과 관련해 가장 큰 관심은 김여정 제1부부장이 문 대통령에게 김정은 위원장의 친서를 전할 가능성입니다. 일부 외국 언론
문재인!
김여정 제1부부장을 통해서 문 대통령을 평양으로 초청할 가능성도 제기했습니다. 다만 남북 정상회담 문제에 대해 청와대는 소중한 태도를 보이고 있기 때문에 남북 정상회담이 주요 의제로 거론되기보다는 남북 관계 개선에 대한 남북 정상의 의지를 간접적으로 확인하는 자리가 될 가능성이 큰 것으로 보입니다. 네, 조금 전 숙소를 떠나고 있는 김여정의 모습.
They're shaking hands.
잠시 후 오전 11시부터 청와대 우찬, 접견, 우찬 예정이 되어 있습니다.
Is she Kim Jong-un's sister?
Yeah, she was.
그래서 올림픽 개회식을 참관하기 새벽 1시쯤에 서울로 돌아왔습니다. 오늘 오찬 북측 참석자는 고위급 대표단 4명입니다. 단장인 김영남 최고.
So they're sitting behind Moon Jae-in.
Yep.
노동당 위원장의 여동생인 김여정 노동당 중앙위원회 제1부부장, 최희 국가체육지도위원장 그리고 리선권 조국 평화통일위원장입니다. 네, 우리 측에서는 임종석 대통령 비서실장과 정의용 국가안보실장, 조명균 통일부 장관이 배석할 예정입니다. 문재인 대통령은 어제 저녁에 평창 올림픽 스타디움에서 열린 올림픽 개회식에서 북측 대표단과 반갑게 인사를 했습니다. 오늘 오찬 회동과 관련해 가장 큰 관심은 김여정 제1부부장이 문 대통령에게 김정은 위원장의 친서를 전달할 가능성입니다. 일부 외국 언론은 김정은 노동당 위원장이
Oh my God, that's so pretty.
문 대통령을 평양으로 초청할 가능성도 제기했습니다. 다만 남북 정상회담 문제에 대해 청와대는 신중한 태도를 보이고 있기 때문에 남북 정상회담이 주요 의제로
화장을 왜 저렇게 찍?
남북 관계 개선에 대한 남북 정상의 의지를 간접적으로 확인하는 자리가 될 가능성이 큰 것으로 보입니다. 네, 문 대통령과 접견 또 오찬을 위해서.
Wouldn't it be nice if Korean and South Korean and North Korean performers performing for the Olympic
Yeah.
ceremony.
Yes, it would have been nice.
자, 아름다운 웅녀가 무용종벽과에서 등장한 무용수 사이에서 5명의 이 어린이들과 만나서 기쁨을 나누고 있습니다.
네, 지금 무대 아래쪽에서 커다란 사가 등장하죠. 세 분이요. 세 명입니다. 새는 육면종입니다.
새인데 사람의 얼굴을 하고 있어요?
네, 맞습니다. 새의 물총을 가지고 있죠. 이 상상 속의 동물로서 떼와 따뜻한 여주는 좀 알려져 있습니다.
하겠다.
벽화에는 인면조가 나오는데 곳에서도 볼 수가 있었나요, 우리가?
백제 금동대학로 그리고 우려먹는 인간 받침 속에서도 인면조를 볼 수 있습니다. 옛날 사람들은 인면조가 세상에 나타나면 거대한 잎사귀 사그라들면서 세상에 평화가 찾아온다고 믿었습니다.
이제 고대 시대에 있어서 신화속의 세계를 하고 앞서서 보았던 수레를 통해서 문명이 이 한반도에서 시작된 것을 표현해 주고
네, 지금 원형 무대의 진수가 상승하는데요. 이것은 천재단을 의미합니다. 인사를 올리면서
최상길 알지? 최상길.
화합의 축제가
최상길 알지?
기원하고
이
있습니다.
날씨가 아주 좋은 사람이야.
어린이들 명수들 사슴을 비롯해서 지금 나무가 보이는데 안쪽에 있는 것이 천재단이라면 나머지는 신데스가 되겠어요?
예, 맞습니다.
와. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, look at that.
네, 조금 전
Whoa, wow. Did you see that?
대표단 출발 모습.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's
와. 태극 마크. 와.
청와대 5차는
commercial이야.
시작될 예정입니다. 북한 보이급 대표단은 어젯밤 평창에서 올림픽 대회
All right, here comes the commercial again.
서울로 돌아왔습니다. 오늘 오찬 북측 참석자는 북한 보이급 대표단 4명입니다. 네, 조금 전 숙소를 떠난 북한 대표단 모습 보셨습니다. 주말 오전 뉴스와이드를 마칩니다. 이어서 계속 뉴스를 전해드리겠습니다. 고맙습니다.
근데 오프닝 세러머니 지금 안 해요? 벌써 끝났어?
지금 하고 있어요.
개막식.
아니요, 지금 하고 있어요.
여기서는 뭐 보고 있는데?
소문고를 연결하고
오늘 한국문단에 대올는데
지금 하고 있는데 오픈 세레머니?
그러니까 여기는 안 보이나?
안 보여요. 목사님 왜 오프닝 세러머니 안 해요?
NBC,
대박.
NBC.
MBC 틀었어요. MBC 있어요? MBC. MBC.
Is proud to present NBC's coverage of the opening ceremony in 4K Ultra HD. Experience the pageantry in stunning 4K detail on Xfinity X1 or learn more at xfinity.com/4K.
오케이. Now I see. 아, 이제 이거예요, 이거. 네네네.
South Korean flag has made its entrance, carried by 8 athletes. Most of them have Olympic ties, but certainly athletes of great renown here in South Korea. What you may be familiar with back in the States, FLOWPP, a PGA golfer, winner of 5 major championships, and he coached the South Korean women's team for golf. Returned to the games in Rio 2 years ago. South Korea adopted in 1948. Mesdames et messieurs, multicultural
뭐, 왜?
family collection known as the Rainbow Children's Choir.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of the Republic of Korea, performed by the Rainbow Children's Choir.
이어서 태극기 개양과 함께 애국가 개창이 있겠습니다. 애국가는 레인보우 합창단이 부르겠습니다. 모두 자리에서 일어나 주시기 바랍니다.
Full screen this. Korean?
They're so cute.
Hello.
Hi, David.
Can you see us?
Hello.
Okay. Your voice flowing.
I think the microphone is muted first.
No, it's on. It's just
Yeah, we can raise this.
audio is you can't hear them.
Maybe
Hello?
it might not be sending. You might need to change your audio output.
No, they're muted.
Oh, they're all muted.
They're all muted.
Oh, why
They all muted themselves.
they muted themselves?
Well, it says they're muted. She's
She's
not.
not muted.
Hi.
We're on.
Can you hear
Hello.
us?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, David.
Oh, it's coming out of your computer, so
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, no, wait. Yeah, the sound. Wait, sound. Oh, go here, go here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and then yeah, there you go, there you go. Yeah.
Do you have speakers?
No, this thing. That's
Yeah.
is that sound here?
That picture, 91 countries. North Korea.
Oh, really? Oh, that's. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I
The
did.
Greece comes first because Greece 기억
I
comes
know.
first. Ah, that's so interesting.
That is interesting, right? I love it though. And then the anchor actually said 미국.
Hmm.
Her pronunciation was pretty good.
Nigeria. Next one is South Africa. 남화공화국. 그래서
아프리카 공화국이라서. That's so funny.
남아프리카
Yeah,
공화국.
right.
Wow.
South Africa.
This is so interesting. I love it. I love the way that goes follow the Korean alphabet system. Here comes Netherlands
Norway.
and Norway. Next one is New Zealand.
Uh-huh.
Denmark. Next one is Denmark.
Germany, 독일.
Germany.
There's South Korean flags too. Oh, commercial again.
Mhm. So now we are on commercial.
We are.
David, could you introduce yourself? David, can you hear us?
Oh, I think it's. Oh no, we can't hear you, David. The other, where's Yun from? LA? Misu?
Yeah.
I think they're watching the Korean
Yeonjin?
version, so they're kind of late.
I think they're watching the Korean version. I think they've already recorded
Yeah,
the
they're.
Korean.
I think they're watching national anthem right now. They're on the national anthem one.
Oh, okay.
David, we still can't hear you though. So sorry. We can't hear you. I see that you're trying.
Speak up.
I think it's their mic system. Maybe you could go to audio settings. Can you go to settings? On your right, go to settings and see, instead of automatic device, try built-in microphone or something else.
Hi. Hi, Joseph.
Hi.
Hi, Joseph.
Hello. You can call me Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe. My name is Misuk. Nice meeting you.
Okay.
My name is Sean. Nice to meet you.
Misu.
Yeah, that's me. So I'm from One Heart for Justice organization. It's a supporting group for cell ferry victims. And could you shortly introduce yourself?
Sure. You talking
Yes, Joe. I think she's talking to you.
me?
Yes, Joe.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'm talking to you,
Um,
Joseph. Yeah.
okay. I'm in Japan, and I'm an American from California. I'm with World Beyond War, and I've been working with this group of activists to promote peace on the Korean Peninsula. And, okay. Let's see. And I've been an activist in Japan for about 20 years. Hi. I don't know who's saying hi to
Nice,
me. I
nice.
can't. Where? Oh? Okay. This is a recording.
I think so. That's weird. I think someone is rewatching the Facebook recording. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
That was freaky, wasn't it? I heard someone else's
Yeah.
voice too.
I think it has about 5 seconds delays on Facebook.
Sure. We're
Do
listening
you
to a recording right now.
do you have Facebook open?
That's my problem.
Oh, is
Sorry.
it you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm an American. Yes. Okay. That was my problem. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. I was like,
Okay.
oh, that is freaky.
You're all learning right now.
Yeah. I was like, what? We're doing some kind of, rerun. Okay. And I'm a professor at a university in Japan, in Nagoya. Have you heard of Nagoya?
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the fourth largest. It's the fourth largest city in Japan, but most people have never heard of it. And let's see. My research is on Japanese literature and Japanese history, but I've been getting the last few years because of this crisis that's been slowly building. I've been reading more and more about Korea and Korean history, and so I've been writing. I've been writing a few articles. I just published an article today in Counterpunch, and I'm trying to do what I can as an American citizen living in Japan to promote peace. And I'm really inspired by this whole idea of the women who are the U.S. hockey team. I'm sorry, the Korea hockey team. I think that's really significant because when I think about, yesterday I was thinking about all of the violence that has been done to Korean women over the last 100 years. If you know about the history of Japanese colonialism, that's a half century of violence, and the comfort women, and then the post-war U.S. occupation, 1945 to 1948. As you know, there's all kinds of sexual violence happening then, and then the Korean War, and that's 3 million people killed, and all kinds of dislocation and a horrible, all kinds of just, the Korean people for the last 100 years have just been tortured, and the treatment of, and then women especially, as you know, that it's a classic example. Korea is a classic example of how the women and children suffer the most. So I'm I'm really inspired. I'm really glad that, or I would say I'm more emotionally invested in this Olympics than I've ever been because I'm actually rooting for a team that I believe in. Like, yeah, I really want this. I really want them to win. I know it's just a game, but it would be great. It would be great I mean, if they got some attention and if people started to see, I think that there's a lot of racism going on right now. And if people could see that, these women as human beings and maybe start to have more sympathy, feel sympathy for, uh, 75 million people on the peninsula, and yeah, but I'm just really happy about that. But so and I'm
Me too,
uh,
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
live in, I, I live in Japan, so I don't, and I live in Nagoya. Um, I don't actually. I work with anti-war activists, but I'm sad to report that there aren't that many Koreans involved with the anti-war movement here in Nagoya. And I don't know if that is because the movement is not accepting them or the movement is not interested enough in the issue, which I do feel that that's definitely true. I feel that the Japanese anti-war activists are not, for the most part. There are exceptions, but for the most part, they're not really taking this seriously. It just seems like, oh, it's just a problem. Yeah, yeah, that's an issue, and they're happy when I come and I hold up posters. Last week, I held up a placard at an anti-war demonstration with the two flags and give peace. It said "Give peace a chance" at the bottom. People are happy to see me doing that, but they're just not like they don't see it as such an important issue. Here, the movement is. I'm involved with anti-base activists who are trying to help fight for the rights of Okinawans. But how is it in the States? Do you feel that Americans are? I'd like to know. I'm here also to learn. What are Americans saying about? What kind of support do you feel coming from Americans who care about peace, or people in your community? Are are they ignoring you, or how do you feel? If anybody could talk about that later, that'd be great.
Jennifer, would you like to talk about that? Jennifer, I cannot hear you.
You have to unmute, Jennifer. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we
Yes,
can.
yes.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Unju Kim from New York City. Actually, I'm right now in New Jersey watching the game, but I teach in New York City. And to answer your question, before I answer your question, whether the Americans are really being active participant in the anti-war movement, yes, they are. And Korea is still occupied. It's not just during 1945 and 1948.
Right.
The whole South Korea is U.S. based.
Right.
So if you say that the Okinawa is U.S. based, you could say from the south of the demilitarized zone to all the way to Jeju Island, Korea is still U.S. based and is still actively occupied. And I like to make that correction.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Yeah, totally.
Yes, and
I mean,
also
Seoul is incredible. Seoul, that huge American military base right in the middle of the city. It's incredible.
And yes, organizations like Veterans for Peace and Catholic workers and many anti-war groups have stood with us in solidarity. So when we attend like U.S. out of Afghanistan, U.S. out of Syria, U.S. out of Middle East, all those demonstrations, it's the active Veterans for Peace and Catholic workers and other anti-war organizations who take part and who take leadership. And when we have Korea democracy movement and Korea unification movements, they also join us in solidarity. And just recently, February 4th, which was on a Sunday, there was this organization called June 15th Declaration group that holds the Korean Peninsula as one country, and we do not accept divided Korea. We're still one country, and it has been one country for past 5,000 years plus. And we delivered for wishing for a whole peaceful Pyeongchang Olympics. We delivered baskets of flowers to the South Korean mission to UN and marched towards the North Korean DPRK mission to UN. And about 70 people attended this peaceful march in front of the UN. And it was beautiful. I was like crying while marching with the One Korea flag, the peninsula flag, the blue flag. 70. 70.
Wow.
That's a big turnout. It was freezing winter temperature, and we got together in front of the South Korean mission to embassy, and the gentleman came out and took the flower and has stopped. Okay, we'll continue. Anyway, and then we marched a block and a half to North Korean U.S. embassy, and it was really interesting that the top official, Mr. Sa, he came out and he greeted us and he welcomed us and he shook hands with us. And that was really rare. Wow. And my daughter, who's a senior in high school, she and I wore Korean regalia, hanbok, to show that we are united with the customs and language and culture and whatnot, even though she's a third generation Korean American and I'm the second generation of Korean American, that Koreans will coexist and exist as one nation, one country forever and ever. And I am in denial of the division. Spiritually, I know we're divided. Other people have divided us, other nations have divided us, but in spirit, we were never divided. And for me, it's really important for us to address this issue to our young kids, to our students, to our future generation, so they never forget who they are, where they come from, and what it is right now, and what it will be in the future. And I think that's, as an educator, that is my job. You know, my job as a mother, as my job as a teacher, it is my job and my duty and my responsibility to carry on this living spirit of one Korea. So we will be unified and, you know, live in peace and harmony. Why do we have to have wars? Why do we have to kill people? You know, why? Why?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I live in Japan, so there's a chance that we could also, here in Japan, we could also, if there was a war, you know, the possible consequences are just mind blowing when you think about the fact that nuclear weapons could be involved. You know, so how do we bring people back to sanity is my question. But I'm in education, and also I know what you're saying. I really feel a heavy responsibility. Japanese, my students, I teach Japanese students mostly, and sometimes I teach American students, and they don't know the history. They don't know the first thing about their own history. How Japan was a perpetrator of violence for half a century, and how Japan now is a aircraft carrier, as they say, unsinkable aircraft carrier that's just sitting here waiting for the next war to back up the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. the issue of greed, the what's called the open door policy, the way that the United States has been for ever since for the last 120 years has been pushing to promote the interests of American companies in East Asia, and how so much of it is about greed and the desire for wealth. You know, the wealth of China has been something. How to say? America has been trying to capture that wealth as much as it can, and by using violence and people. Yeah, there's so many things that we have to educate people about. Yeah.
So if it's not happening
totally
in the
with you.
educational institution, I think we
No.
Civilian groups, social groups, and small study groups, we have to take upon ourselves and educate ourselves and then teach it to the young kids and to our parents' generation as well. Because, you know, with my parents, they were born in the 30s, and I'm so actively involved in this and that and that and this, and now they're beginning to see, why is she out on the street? You know, she could live a very comfortable life with her kids. You know, why is she out in the street? And when I start to explain to my mom, like, Ma, what you learned in Korea and what I learned in the textbooks in New York City, they're all lies. And when I only begun to deeply into the history on my own when I was in college, that's when I begin to realize, oh my goodness, you know, oh my goodness. And I want my children and my students to have the opportunity to know the truth and apply the truth and live in the world of truth and not be totally blindsided. Oh, okay. So we have to be actively involved and engaging and, you know, not give up, right? Never give up. Continue. March on.
Exactly. Exactly. Don't give up, just every day. Just keep doing it. Right now, what do you think about the Olympic truce? What do you think the potential for the Olympic truce? This truce that right now that the United States has been forced to cooperate with, not doing the military exercises in South Korea.
I hope so. Yeah, and I know politics. It being politics as is can change any second and any minute, right? But we're really hopeful, and it is a historical moment in various different angles and many different ways. And I hope that this will be the brand new beginning towards reunification. And yes, absolutely, the peace treaty must be signed and activated and executed before before we could go any further. But, you know, even having this hanging out on live Facebook or live Blue Jean application, whatever the SNS, it's wonderful that we are able to, you know, meet like that on air. Online.
Get together and talk and eat food, have a good time. This is great. I think David Swanson is going to come on. He was supposed to. David Swanson is supposed to be coming on soon with World Beyond War. David Swanson. But I guess people can just come on anytime they want, can't they? Okay.
So, Joe, one of the purpose, so one of the purpose of having this activity is that, you know, not just to watch the Korean Olympic, having an Olympic watch party. Not only that, we're trying to find out who our allies are. You know, we want to get together, mobilize ourselves, and reach to our ultimate goal, which is making a peace treaty between North Korea and America, U.S. in the U.S. So therefore, that because the crisis building up, the tension in the crisis building up, and we really do not want the America, initiate the first strike,
Hmm.
and so we want to get together and find out who our allies are, and then just mobilize ourselves and um, take our first action towards it. I think that's
Great.
why we are here. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I'd really like to. This is kind of the beginning for me as far as talking to
Exactly. Yes. For us too.
Koreans and
It is.
mm, yes, and I went to there was a big demo when Trump came to Tokyo, and I went to that, and I met some Koreans who were with what I was told was the most powerful labor union in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember the name of it now, but uh, the problem was nobody could communicate. Nobody spoke Korean, and the Korean these labor activists who came, there were like 10 of them, experienced labor activists who are also working very hard for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Uh, nobody could communicate with them. They didn't they didn't speak Japanese or English, and none of the Japanese people could speak Korean. And we had there was one interpreter, and she was interpreting the speeches on the stage. But it was a huge gathering. It must have been a few thousand people, Japanese. There was a big rally in like a stadium kind of place, an outdoor amphitheater, and then we marched. It was a long march, maybe 2 hours of marching. We walked all the way to, I think it was Tokyo Station. We went from Shinjuku to Tokyo Station,
Mm-hmm.
and there were all kinds of Japanese ultranationalists who were screaming at us, and I had never seen that kind of intensity from the ultranationalists here.
Mm-hmm.
But these Korean labor activists they weren't even phased, just walking and just it was like a beautiful sunny day for them, even though these you know you know 10 feet away from them there are these Japanese screaming at them, go home, saying horrible things. But anyway, I felt that there's a huge disconnect between the uh, the Koreans in Korea and Japanese anti-war activists. In various ways, I've been feeling there's a disconnect. So this is a great opportunity to talk to you all. Yeah, I tend to talk too much, so just cut me off
No. That's
at any time. I don't get to talk to Koreans who care about these issues very much here in Nagoya. But,
so there are
yeah,
not
maybe we
many
could.
Korean people living in that area, Nagoya.
That's a good question. No, there's a Korean community. It doesn't seem that big to me though. There are a few Korean restaurants, and there's one bar that a lot of Koreans hang out at. And when we say Korean, I mean a lot of these people have been in Japan like you. You've been in the States for 2 or 3 generations. That's the same thing. We have people here who've been here for sometimes 3 or 4 generations, and they speak Japanese. They're totally Japanese culturally, not totally, but you know, um, and they don't have
Yeah, I
citizenship.
heard that. Right. I heard that there's a
They
lot of
can't vote.
hate speech against Korean in Japan.
Yes, yes.
I guess that's
The
one of the
last
reasons they were kind of fighting. Yeah.
the last couple of years have been really bad. But there was a new hate speech law was just passed last year, And apparently that's having an effect. There was an article that I helped to translate there's a website called the Asia Pacific Journal, Japan Focus, and yeah, we translated an article from Japanese into English by scholars who work on hate speech, and yeah, the hate demos they have to be a little bit more careful how they do it, but they're still doing it. So Japan doesn't have a real hate speech law. They basically the government they have this new law. They call it a law, but it's totally toothless. There's no way to actually prosecute people for hate speech crimes, and so it's still happening. And on the internet, as you know, there's all of these people who are anonymous, and they're just pouring out stuff. Anti-Korean sentiment has been getting worse over the last few years.
That's what
of
I
course,
heard.
partly
That's what I heard. Yeah.
I mean,
partly
what's
because of
going
what's
on, throughout the world, in the United States, the rise of KKK, also in Korea, there's this organization called 서북 청년단, who decimated more than 75% of the Jeju population during 1947, and they are also we call them what do you call it? The rebirth during the Easter. They're also
yeah.
yeah, up and coming. And in Japan, this is it just anti-Korean or anti-foreigner? Or they specifically anti-Korean in Japan? I like to know because in Korea, it's anti-socialism or
Right.
communism, anti-North,
Right.
anti-nationalism, and what they believe
Right.
to be nationalist and patriarchal is totally misconfigured. They're talking about fascism, and they're talking about nationalism and free Christian liberation. That's what they're noting themselves to be. And this KKK under the banner of the burning cross, who would have ever thought in this 2018, the uprising of KKK, would come about? No one. We even had the first African American president in the United States, and the uprising of KKK and 서북 청년단 in South Korea, and this anti-Korean hate groups in Japan. What is going on? I know Hungary, they have the rise of fascists through there, and where else? Name all those places.
Ukraine.
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 Yes, Ukraine. Ukraine.
Neo-Nazis. They have real Nazi
yeah.
flags, and that's backed up by the CIA.
Yes. And when I tell them to my friends, they think I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
When I tell them that ISIS was, started by CIA, and they think I'm talking foreign language. They don't believe me. And I said, go listen to the NPR recording, National Public Radio recording a few years ago when they addressed that issue. Somebody came on talking about the terrorism that ISIS was creating throughout the world. And the announcer, asked but wasn't the ISIS created by Pentagon and CIA? And he was, he was lost with words, yes, in the beginning, yes, it started that way, but now, And I thought, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah. Or the Taliban. The Taliban was supported by the United States.
That too.
And what do you think about the elections in Korea and the elections that brought in Syngman Rhee?
That's rigged too. Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody talks about that. Nobody talks.
And
Even
if you
anti-war
talk
activists
about
don't
it,
talk about it.
even on the Facebook, like I was, blastering about the history, the true history of Korea. And so
Hmm.
many people got together in mass and blocked me, saying that I was speaking nonsense. So I was blocked from posting on Facebook twice already for 7 days. They said, what you
Wow.
said, what you posted goes against our regulations, blah, 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 blah. And then I looked at the posting and I said, Seungman Rhee was a U.S. puppet and he killed millions of people, his own people, and this and that and that and this. And they said, I am, working for the North Korea, or I'm a commie, or I'm red. And all of them got
Right.
together and they blocked me. I said, why
Hmm.
am I being blocked?
Wow.
Isn't there such thing as freedom of speech or freedom of scholarship? Because I got all my evidence through doing research, U.S.
Yeah.
certified documents, classified
Yeah.
documents.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce Cummings.
Hmm.
When I people will they'll say what are you saying? You're spouting complete nonsense. We need to hear from a real scholar. I'm like, try University of Chicago, the preeminent historian. This is pretty reliable, isn't it? But yeah, people don't.
What book is
I've
that?
heard the same.
Hi, David.
Hello.
David, can
I
you hear?
recognize it. Yes, I can. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes,
Hello.
I can hear you well.
I have a question for Joseph. What book was that? What's the title?
Yeah. Oh, the book?
What was the book? Yeah.
Korea's Place in the Sun.
Yeah, I'm reading
and the
his
other
other
one
books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that one yet. But you mentioned the
What
Asia
are you reading?
Pacific. Oh yeah, it's like a lot of delay. I read. I finished Origins of the Korean War Volume 1. I'm on Volume 2 now. I read.
Wow.
I read the Korean War. The Korean War. They're really informative. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the Asia Pacific Journal.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm surprised you mentioned that. I really like that site. It has a lot of good study.
Great. Yeah. We've been the last. It's a very small group. There's just a small group of people who've been scholars and anti-war activists who've been writing for them. It's great. What'd you say?
Well, David, can you introduce your group? And I see a lot of posters behind you, and yourself as well. David.
Hello?
David?
Hello? Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, are we back? Okay, hi. Okay,
Yes.
so my name's David. We are here at the one of the Answer Coalition's headquarter offices. They watch the entrance with us. We have a lot of members here. They're back there. We have hello, say hi everyone. Yeah, they're back there. We have some Korean activists here as well, and some other groups. Yeah, so we finished watching the entrance. It was really nice. Big crowd. Yeah. What was the topic of discussion so far? I couldn't. It was cutting out. The signal was really bad. We couldn't hear at all.
Well, it was just random. We were talking about, Olympic truce, and then we were talking about, the peace movements in general, and we've also talked about, the Japanese people in Japan, and Joe happens to be a professor in Japan, so he shared his experience when he was teaching in Japan. You're currently in Japan right now, right? Nagoya, Joe?
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we're just talking
And I used
random.
to be, also used to be a student at Stutsubashi University, and my advisor was Lee Yonsuk. I don't know if you know her. He wrote a book on
Who?
Lee Yonsuk, or in Japanese, the pronunciation is Yonsuk.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's a scholar of, I guess you call it sociolinguistics, but also she talks about the history of Japanese ultranationalism and how the attacks on Koreans. And so I was in a seminar with her for about 3 years. I was a student there, and there were lots of Korean students. So I got to hear about the history. A lot of them were working on the history of Japanese colonialism, the way that uh, all kinds of cultural monuments were destroyed, and people were forced to speak in Japanese, and so I got to hear a lot about that. And then the diaspora, the Koreans who went to China, uh, and yeah, and then business people who moved out of the country, and so I got to hear a lot of that. But yeah, there are a lot of Koreans in Japanese society who are playing a prominent role in educating people and doing research. So yeah, but now in Nagoya here, unfortunately, I haven't been able to connect up with people who are really working on these kinds of issues yet.
Well, I want to go back to David because well,
Yeah.
he finally came back on and he was able to join us. So David, what made you get involved into this movement?
Funny story for me personally. Um, on Facebook, there was a news story going around on Facebook that North Korea executed 10,000 Christians for carrying a Bible. When I saw that, my friends were sharing it. They were posting, commenting about it and whatnot. And I saw that, and I saw more like it, stuff like that. But that one really didn't make sense to me.
아, 이 사람들, 이게 누구 이 사람?
I mean, even strategically, how do you execute 10,000 people publicly? It didn't make any sense. So I just started trying to research this.
샌프란시스코에
I started looking into
워싱턴 DC에서 누가 나오는지 몰랐어. 좀 영어로 왔다 갔다 하거든. 근데 지금 뒤에서 이렇게 필테산 들고 있네.
아, 이 사람들.
David?
이거 여기는 어디야, 이거?
Yeah. Should I keep going? Or? Whoa.
Yeah, continue, David. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I found a lot of inconsistencies with how the public portrays North Korea, and it seemed to me like it's the only topic in the modern world that is so accepted without facts, without any logical thinking. Because if you look at anywhere else in the world, let's look at the Middle East, for example, U.S. military involvement in the Middle East. There's huge debate about it, right? People are debating about it, people have been debating about it. But North Korea has been a bipartisan thing for, ever since the Korean War. No one's talking about it, no one's debating it, no one's questioning it. So that's what made me interested. Yeah, I actually want to be a professor as well. It was actually pretty interesting to see.
I'm actually a specialist on Japanese literature and history, not Korean. I'm not a Koreanist, but yeah, I talk to Koreanists. I've talked to many Koreanists, and I saw Bruce Cummings give it at a conference last year, the Asian Studies conference, and I was really impressed. The intellect, the level of the scholars who are working with him the level of discourse, the way that it is so free and so dedicated, so sincere, dedicated to the truth. But it's a very small group of people. They just like you. They say the same things.
Yeah.
That there are these huge contradictions and these outrageous claims, like Kim Il Sung was actually a fake. That he wasn't actually the general. That he wasn't the guy who worked from 1932 until 1945 fighting against Japanese in Manchuria. That, that this is all a big fraud. I'm like, what are you talking about? How do you pull that off? How would you, how could somebody impersonate this guy? But those claims are taken, that a lot of South Koreans believe that, and Japanese. A lot of Japanese believe that just total nonsense, you know. But the Koreans, the people working with, you should definitely get in touch with that group, with Bruce Cummings' group.
Right.
They're really dedicated. They really want to bring out the truth.
It's crazy because some people actually still believe that Kim Il Sung was still an imposter. Some Koreans still believe that North Koreans have thorns and horns and a tail with a pitchfork. There's so many people that still believe that. Yeah. So yeah, that's what brought me to the movement, and I think it is a great step that there was a unified entrance under the same flag. But I think with this particular movement, my personal thought on the movement itself is that there are people definitely in the movement, but I think it could be more in-depth understanding. So what I mean by that is, for example, the underlying problem, I think, is not essentially people, Korean youths were against a unified flag under Olympics, and they were against teaming together in the Olympics. I think that shows that's the problem that really needs to be addressed. And I don't get me wrong, I think marching on the same flag is great, it's wonderful, but at the same time, on the long term, what's going to fix problem is a change of heart and minds of the Korean people, and that marching on the same flag really isn't, it's not doing a, huge job of, changing the hearts and minds of the South Korean people. So I think that's what my, primary concern is that Professor Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
Could you introduce yourself, Christine?
Yes, I'm so sorry, you guys. It's been a long day. Christine on. I'm calling from New York City. I'm with I'm actually at Gloria Steinem's house. I could just bring her over to say hi really quickly. But sorry, it's been such a long day. I've been going for like 14 hours. But I'm happy. Thank you for organizing this Facebook Live Olympics party. Hi, Joseph.
Woohoo!
Great to finally see you face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Great analyst, this guy, Joseph. Yeah. Hi, Sean.
Hi.
So I have no idea how this works or what I'm supposed to do or if I'm just to hang out.
I think we're just hanging out and just talking about having a discussion. That's about it.
Yeah, we have an up and coming scholar activist here named David Yoon.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Are we about to hear from David?
I think he
he was
spoke.
telling.
Go ahead, Joe.
Should I
go?
go and just bring Gloria Steinem on for a second just to say hi?
Yes.
That'd be great.
Okay. I'm staying with her. and I'll just, I don't know. I mean, I think she'll be okay. Let me just ask.
Oh, okay.
Gloria, do you mind just quickly saying hi? I'm on a Facebook Olympics party.
Okay.
So you can just make a well wish for Korea.
Okay.
Okay. Here's Gloria.
Hi, Gloria.
Here's to keep it
Hi.
on the peace
Hi,
walking.
Gloria.
Hi.
Any message for like the inter-Korean peace process or?
Well, I feel hopeful because if they can do it in sports, we can do it in the world.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really hopeful.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Gloria.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Yes. Oh, you found.
No, I mean I'll find that, but here's negotiations.
이제 나올 때 됐어요? 네. 조금 있다가 이렇게 우리도 연결해서요. say hi 그러고 원 코리아 나우 그러면 원 코리아 나우 같이 외쳐주세요. 좀
So
이따.
how cold is it in New York?
It's very cold, especially compared to Hawaii. Yeah. Although
Like
we were
it-
just
is
on
it-
the phone with my daughter in Hawaii, and she was saying to Gloria, "It was so cold, I had to wear mittens." And then her father said, "Yeah, it was so cold, it was 70 degrees." Yeah.
So how is it like? Is it like freezing in New York?
It's not freezing. I mean,
Okay.
I'd say it's like high 30s.
Okay. That's pretty cold.
Yeah. Hi. Who are those people? Who is Yun?
I think one of the LA groups would like to join and say hi. Yanjin?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Jean.
Hi.
Hi. 잠깐만요. 네.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you
We
hear
can hear
us?
you well.
네, 예.
Yes.
지금 크리스티나 나와 있고요. 워먼 클래스 DMZ에 글로리아 스타이넘 씨도 계시고요. 이게 같이 올림픽 개막식을 같이 보고 있어서 I have to speak in English. we are in LA, Action One Korea members and other Korean American citizens watching in Korean language opening ceremony. So we wanna say hi because the room situation is not. We cannot hear both. Broadcasting as well as your speech. So we wanna say hi and say hi.
Hi.
One Korea now. One Korea now.
How do you say?
Korea now. Yay.
우리의 하나.
Yeah.
예, 우리는 하나. 네. 마이크.
두 개 나라가
We'll turn off the
참가했습니다만
mic because of the noise. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
문재인 대통령과 영부인
Thank you.
You say 안녕하세요?
Yes. 안녕하세요.
For hello?
Hello. Uh-huh.
안녕하세요.
Hi. 안녕하세요. Joseph, and are you calling from Tokyo or where are you calling in from?
Nagoya, where I live.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Fourth largest city in Japan, but nobody's heard of it.
Uh-huh. I've heard of it. Somehow
I did too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I heard
I'm
about the
surprised.
terrible loss in Okinawa.
Oh, I know.
What happened?
The mayor of Goya, or I
Oh,
forget
the election, yeah.
yeah, the Hanoko base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
setback.
real shock. I mean, the anti-war movement has been so strong the last 5 years. It just seemed like everybody was on board. Basically, 80% of the population in Okinawa was on board with resisting Henoko.
Right.
Yeah, Camp Schwab.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
somehow I don't understand it. I don't understand how the ultranationalists could win. He's a big supporter of Prime Minister Abe.
Oh my goodness. I know. Oh,
Yeah.
that's horrible.
Yeah.
And how could Okinawans vote for somebody like that? It's kind of like Trump's election. Like how does
I
how
know.
does this
How
happen?
does working class people vote against their interests?
Oh my God. Oh, let's not talk about Trump. It was
Yeah,
devastating time for me. I was
yeah.
very upset.
Yeah.
But I've heard that the majority of the voters had incomes over $70,000 per year.
I know. Which
Most
was
of the people
Yeah, right.
who voted in the election,
I know.
who voted for Trump. I'm sorry, the people who voted for Trump.
Yes.
So somehow there's people. I think that there's a lot of racism and sexism in the middle class too.
Right.
53% of white women voted for
Yeah,
Trump.
exactly. That's Gloria's line. It's not the women of color. That's
Right. I know.
the white women is the problem, right?
Yeah, black women are down with the Democratic Party.
Right.
Yeah, like
They are. It's like
99% voted, right? Yeah,
yeah.
I know. They've
They're
always saved
they're
this
always
country.
with it.
They're always
Yes.
saving this country, right? They're the soul
Yes.
and the
And
conscience of this country.
Yes.
Joined
And
us.
people don't
I think
they don't appreciate.
Hi, Christina.
she's from Washington. Hey, can you introduce us to yourself to us?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Let's see. I'm gonna scoot back so you can see all of us.
Hi.
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 Hello. We are Women's
Hi.
Actions Wand, and we are so excited to be watching the Olympic opening ceremonies with you all. Hello.
Yes.
Just a little bit about.
Good. Thank you for joining today.
We're so happy to be. Just a bit about us. We work to empower women to be agents of change, to reduce violence and militarism. Ultimately, we support nuclear disarmament and we redirect excessive Pentagon spending to unmet human and environmental needs. And we also have a network of state legislators who work to meet those goals as well.
Wow.
We are most excited to cheer for the unified Korean women's ice hockey team. We were really excited because today we were able to send the team a letter which included a very supportive message from 2,000 U.S. fans, letting them know that we support their efforts and that we plan to keep working to make sure that diplomacy and opportunities for peace continue after the final buzzer sort of sounds. We have a blog on it on our website. You can even read the letter that we sent to the team there. And, you know, because we need to be promotional as well, you can find our blog here.
Yeah, you can find us online at wand.org. We'd be so happy to hear from each and one of your organizations. You can also check us out on Facebook. We post all of our petitions and activities and events there. And also, we frequently tweet on Twitter. And so you can find our latest activities there as well. So we look forward to hearing from all of you, and go Team Korea.
Yay!
Yes.
Yay! Win.
I don't know if you guys can see our decorations back there, but we have the Olympic.
Nice.
Yeah, sign.
Awesome.
Great.
So we just wanted to drop in and say hi. We meant to join earlier, but we got a little bit distracted by the opening ceremonies, which have been really cool so far.
Well, thank you for joining. Where are you guys based in?
Thank you.
We're based in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. That's great.
Yeah. Where is everyone else joining from?
So I'm in California, Northern California.
Where?
I'm actually by Bay Area called Santa Clara. So it's called Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I know California. I'm from California, so that's why I asked.
Oh, okay. Joe.
Yeah, my name is
from
Misuk. I'm from Berkeley, California.
Awesome.
Huh?
Great. And
Joe-
it's good to see
Joe,
you guys
I-
again.
Hey. Cool.
Joe in Nagoya, Japan.
What time is it there?
It's actually 11:50 a.m. So this works out really well for me. Usually I have to be up at 4 in the morning in order to do something like this.
Yeah.
But this works out really well.
Yeah, great.
Saturday morning,
Yeah. For us, it's Friday,
great.
TGIF.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
someone else wants to join.
Oh, yes, we can introduce Roxanne.
Roxanne, all right. Yeah, go ahead, should be fine.
Hello.
Yeah. She's supporting us
Hello,
as well.
little girl. Oh,
She's big,
so
big
cute.
fan
Hello.
of hockey, of women's hockey, of the unified team. She just can't get enough.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I should show you my poster. This is a poster I took the other day to a demo here in Nagoya. What do you think?
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
Have you seen this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's
Give
great.
peace a chance. Love it. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and I got a pretty good response. The Japanese on the street, they could understand the English, give peace a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Great.
people were pretty supportive. But here's our usual poster. It's all messed up. It says Henoko new base construction opposed. This is so usually we work on I'm working on anti-base stuff in Nagoya. And also this is the Jugon. You know about this these beautiful creatures that live in Okinawa?
Manatee?
Mm.
That's what it looks like. The manatees.
What's it called in English? In Japanese, it's Jugon. I forget in English, but
I think that's
Okinawans
manatee is
always.
right. Yeah.
It's kind of like a manatee, yeah. But Okinawans always start. Or typically, they'll start talking. They talk about nature first. They talk about the effect of the military bases on nature. They talk about the other animals, how the other animals are going to suffer. And they'll spend like 15 minutes on that, and then they'll start to talk about how it's affecting Okinawans, the human impact. So they have a very different perspective, but they're extremely sophisticated about what's going on with international politics. You can go to Okinawa and just talk to somebody on the street, and elderly women, they can tell you all about what's going on.
So sorry, guys. I have to log off, but it was really good seeing you all.
Yeah, I know, me too. It's been a long day, so I need to get some sleep before I collapse.
Okay. Happy watching.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Bye, Sean.
Everybody.
It was great seeing you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you in person.
Mm-hmm.
So Kwan Nam,
What about Christina?
I'm really impressed. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. No, I wasn't talking. I was just. Go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
So I'm really impressed with how you organize this. Where you're based in the Bay Area?
Yes.
See. So and have there been demos there in the Bay Area in support of the Olympic truce?
No, we haven't had that, protests, but this is just initial stage. We are trying to mobilize our allies, and like I've been saying that. I mean, we want to find out where our allies are and get them together and make it into some kind of organizations. We haven't even started yet. This is our very first baby step. Yeah. But our goal is to initiate some kind of the peace resolution to the Congress, hopefully, to make a peace agreement between North Korea and the U.S.
So, and how do you view what do you think about President Moon? Is he one thing I am trying to understand is how, to what extent is he willing to stand up against Washington and to move ahead with his own program?
Well, I think well, first of all, he has his own history of being a progressive lawyer before he became a president. So I do have a belief in him. So I think he's going to do his best to find a way to to mitigate between North and the U.S. But we just have to see. There are several things that that he did which I didn't really agree to, but I still have belief in him. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's hard to sometimes, as he seems to be sending out conflicting messages, but maybe he understands Donald Trump better than we do. Giving Donald Trump credit for this détente. But what time is it in California?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
What time is it in
I'm
California?
sorry, I cannot hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, much better, yeah. So what did you say?
What time is it in
I couldn't hear you. Oh, right now it's almost 7 o'clock. What time is it in Japan right now?
It's 12 noon on Saturday.
12 noon. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you hear about us?
I've been reading your messages on the Korea collaboration listserv.
I see.
Yeah. But it seems like there is a big disconnect. So I think what you're doing is really important. Connecting the Korean American community and the Korean community with American or I should say the other Americans who are working on peace. I guess
because yes, go ahead.
Maybe there's a different perspective with.
Yeah, what I was trying to say is that there are a lot of American organizations that work towards anti-militarism here in the Bay Area, but not necessarily focused on Korean peace movements. But now I see I see them get involved in Korean peace treaty because the Asian pivot, the U.S. policy that they are trying to move forward. So I see them getting involved into this more and more, and I think what we're trying to do is that, and then on the other side, and Korean American, they already have started some kind of a Korean reunification movement, not at a great scale though. So we are trying to bring both groups together, Korean groups, Korean American groups, as well as American groups who have been been working on towards anti-militarism. So then it can be we can create a greater force towards the goal that we would like to achieve. Yeah.
That's great to hear. I'm gonna yeah, please include me. Well, I guess we'll be able to stay in touch through email and on the Korea collaboration listserv. But also we're having there's a demo later this month, towards the end of this month, in Tokyo for with basically the same kinds of goals as that we have